For generations, Vatican insiders have claimed Lucifer is buried beneath the Vatican, inside an iron coffin, and the coffin was held with 7 chains, each made by a different religion. That's the part almost nobody knows. Not because it isn't recorded, but because the Vatican has never publicly acknowledged the chamber beneath its own foundations. So here's the real mystery. How did a coffin older than Christianity end up under the headquarters of the Christian world? Early church records admit one unsettling detail. We found the chamber, we did not build it. Archaeologists have discovered references to the same structure in Persian, Jewish, and pre-Roman texts, all describing a metal coffin forged from meteoric iron, always in the same region, always sealed with 7 distinct chains, 7 religions, 7 chains, 1 burial, but none of them claim responsibility for putting it there. So who coordinated it? Why was the coffin placed in the exact location that would later become Vatican City? And why do historical maps of Vatican Hill show one section, the lowest section, missing from every published excavation? If the coffin predates the church, if the chains were created by faiths that never worked together, and if every culture describes sealing the same structure, then the questions become unavoidable. Who buried Lucifer? Why in this location? And why is the Vatican still guarding something it never put there? In this investigation, we're going to walk through the 3 possibilities behind each of those questions. Not fantasy, not fan fiction. Just the uncomfortable overlap between religious history, archaeology, and the one place on Earth nobody is allowed to fully excavate: Vatican Hill. If you ask a Catholic theologian, an imam, or a rabbi who buried Lucifer under the Vatican, you'll usually get the same answer. Nobody. That's not how this works. But the texts don't care what sounds neat in a sermon. They describe something physical, measurable, buried. When you line up the oldest references, 3 explanations keep coming back. Possibility A, a forgotten coalition of early religions. The first theory is the most human, and, in some ways, the most disturbing. According to this view, the burial wasn't done by one faith, but by many, long before they were enemies. Fragments from early Near Eastern texts describe a radiant being that could not be killed, only contained. A rebel star, a fallen watcher, a voice of fire that walks. Different names, same description. In this theory, priests from several cultures, early Proto-Zoroastrians, pre-exilic Hebrews, pre-Roman Italian cults, and at least one Mesopotamian priesthood, finally realized they were all reporting the same entity. They didn't agree on his identity. They didn't agree on his origin. But they agreed on one thing. He could not be allowed to walk the earth unbound. So they did the only thing they could. They pooled their knowledge, their rituals, their symbols, and built a prison none of them could have completed alone. That would explain why. No single religion claims the burial, yet each has records hinting at a chained adversary beneath the hill of the Western Empire. It turns Lucifer's burial into the one moment in history where religions stopped arguing about who was right and focused on who was dangerous. Possibility B, one empire did the work. The religions just wrote the cover story. The second possibility is colder. In this version, it wasn't a coalition of priests who buried him. It was a single empire, one powerful enough to move armies, metals, and manpower across continents. The priests came later and rewrote the story to give themselves a heroic role. This points to one of 2 candidates: a late Bronze Age power that vanished so completely we only see its shadow in scattered myths, or a pre-Roman Italian power centered exactly where Vatican Hill now stands. Under this theory, Lucifer, or whatever name they used, wasn't treated as a demon at all. He was treated as a political threat, a destabilizing force that made kings irrational and nations suicidal. So an early empire captures him, builds a coffin out of meteoric iron, the hardest, most otherworldly material they know, and then commissions priests from different regions to lock their own chains into the coffin. Not because they believe in him, but because they want every region emotionally invested in keeping him below ground. In other words, each religion's chain is a political contract. Break your chain, you break the pact. It would explain why the texts emphasize binding more than worship, and why, thousands of years later, nobody wants to admit they were manipulated into becoming wardens. Possibility C. They didn't bury him by choice. They buried him to stop something else. The third possibility is the one insiders hate the most. In this model, humans didn't decide to bury Lucifer at all. They were told to. Several early mystic texts, never published, only cited, hint at another presence involved in the burial. Something that stands above the usual God versus devil framework. A voice, or intelligence, that tells multiple early priesthoods the same thing. He can't be destroyed. He can only be contained. And if you don't help, he won't be the only one that walks. That would mean the burial wasn't about humans versus Lucifer. It was about preventing a chain reaction humanity didn't understand. In that case, who buried him? Not a religion, not an empire, but a group of humans acting under orders from something they couldn't categorize and still can't explain today. Each of these three explanations answers one question and opens three more, but all of them fit the same basic facts. Multiple religions, one coffin, no ownership. Someone buried him, and no one wants to stand up and admit their fingerprints are on the chains. The next question is just as unnerving. Why here? Out of all the places on Earth, why bury Lucifer under the patch of rock that would become Vatican City? Again, three possibilities, all ugly. Possibility A. The hill was chosen because of what lies under it. Geologists who have studied the region point out something simple. Vatican Hill sits over a complicated network of faults, cavities, and old lava channels. To most people, that's just geology. To early priests, it would have looked like a ready-made prison. Multiple layers of rock, natural pressure points, places where sound dies and air feels heavy. If you were going to bury something you never wanted dug up, you'd look for a hill that wouldn't flood, rock hard enough to resist collapse, a place that already felt wrong to people. Roman records describe parts of Vatican Hill as unhealthy and ill-favored. Locals avoided it. They preferred to build across the river. That lines up with the idea that the location wasn't sacred at all. It was simply the safest lid they could find. Possibility B. The hill wasn't chosen for the coffin. The church was drawn to the hill. The second possibility flips it around. Maybe the burial came first. Then the hill started, influencing what was built above it. According to this view, the presence in the coffin doesn't sleep. It doesn't break out. It simply pulls. Empires, pilgrims, power structures. Not because it wants to be guarded, because it wants attention, energy, and people walking directly over its head. Think about it. Out of all the places Peter could have been buried, tradition centers his grave here. Out of all the places Constantine could have put the original Basilica, he chooses this hill. Out of all the sites for the heart of Catholic power, this one becomes non-negotiable. In this model, the iron coffin is like a magnet. It pulls the most powerful religion on earth into position directly above it, then watches as they swear to guard what they never laid down. Possibility C. The coordinates were chosen to plug a hole. The third possibility is more technical. Some early mystic traditions talk about thin places, points where the barrier between worlds is weaker. From the Arctic Circle to the Himalayas, you see rumors of gates, doorways, holes in the firmament. Under this theory, the coordinates under Vatican Hill are one of those points, a natural weak spot. Lucifer isn't just buried in a random cave. He's pinned across a tear. The coffin anchors the breach. The chains don't only restrain him, they stabilize whatever is underneath. That would explain why moving him was never considered, why no text suggests relocating the prison to a desert or an island or the depths of the sea. You don't move a bolt that's holding a damaged wall together. You don't pull out the nail if you know the plank behind it is rotten. In that sense, Vatican Hill isn't just where they buried him. It's where reality itself was patched up. Barely. We know the claim. 7 chains, each forged by a different religion. That sounds theatrical until you read what each tradition actually wrote. When you strip away legend and look at the technical details, the 7 chains stop looking like props and start looking like contracts. Chain 1, the root. This chain is associated with the oldest earth-based cults in the region, pre-Roman, pre-Christian. Its symbols appear in fragments linked to early Italian and Etruscan rites. Its purpose: to bind Lucifer's presence to one place. Not to stop him thinking, not to stop him speaking, just to stop him leaving. Think of it as an anchor. Chain 2, the fire. Often linked to Proto-Zoroastrian belief, this chain focuses on fire, judgment, and purification. Its function: to suppress manifestation. In plain language, to stop his presence from taking on a visible form. If this chain weakens, the first signs wouldn't be an escape. They'd be apparitions, partial forms, shadows seen by people who don't know what they're looking at. Chain 3, the voice. Associated with early Semitic traditions, this chain is described as a silencer. Its job is simple: stop broadcast. The fear wasn't that Lucifer would claw his way out. It was that he'd sit quietly in the dark and whisper into the minds of kings, prophets, and generals. This chain is meant to choke that influence. Chain 4, the blood. Linked in some texts to sacrificial systems, this chain appears to be connected to the idea of exchange. Life for life, blood for blood. Its function is to block trades. No deals, no bargains, no, I give you this if you give me that. The people who designed this knew exactly how dangerous a trapped entity offering favors can be. Chain 5, the threshold. This chain governs boundaries, doorways, dreams, night terrors. It's the one meant to stop him showing up at the edge of people's beds, in half-woken visions, or in the deep strangeness between waking and sleep. If your nightmares get organized, if millions dream the same figure in the same place, this is the chain that failed. Chain 6, the cross. This is the Christian chain, forged long after the first 5. Its purpose is political and spiritual, to bind his authority. Not just stay in the box, but you do not rule here. It's a declaration that, above this hill, another kingdom claims jurisdiction. Break this chain, and every symbol built on top of it loses weight. Chain 7, the crescent. The final chain, associated with early Islamic scholarship, is concerned with words and law. It binds doctrine. In practical terms, it stops his presence from rewriting revelation. If you ever wanted to inject a new, holy text straight into the minds of the faithful, this is the chain in your way. Together, the 7 chains don't just hold a coffin closed. They firewall an intelligence. Presence, form, voice, bargain, threshold, authority, doctrine. 7 categories, 7 chains. When you understand that, the next question becomes obvious. If each chain is powered by the faith that forged it, what happens when belief collapses? We know one thing for sure. Christian Rome wasn't the first to use Vatican Hill for burials. The area under St. Peter's is a necropolis, a city of the dead, predating the Basilica itself. So when did the church first realize there was something deeper than tombs? Again, 3 patterns emerge. Scenario A. The early Christians broke into the chamber by accident. According to this reconstruction, small Christian communities hiding from Roman persecution began using underground spaces near the hill. Tunnels, caves, chambers. During one expansion, a group breaks through a wall and finds a set of stairs leading down. Air that feels heavy, metallic, wrong. Inscriptions in languages none of them recognize. Some records hint at exactly this. Early bishops quietly order the chamber bricked back up. They write just enough to warn their successors. We found the chamber. We did not build it. Then stop. No sermons, no public teaching. Just a brief, private note. Do not open this. Scenario B. The full chamber was only explored once, and they regretted it. Under this model, the Vatican left the chamber untouched for centuries, until one pope authorized a full descent. A small team goes down: a theological advisor, an archivist, a physician, a military escort. They map the chamber. They catalog the chains. They test the metal. And something happens down there. We don't know what. We only see the side effects. Several members of the team resign within a year. One dies under unexplained circumstances. The Pope's private writings become darker, more urgent. A new, unwritten rule appears. We guard. We do not disturb. After that, no Pope descends personally. They are briefed. They are warned. But they are told enough to know. They are sitting on something older, larger, and more dangerous than their own institution. Scenario C. They always knew something was under the hill. They just didn't know what it was. There is a third possibility. The burial predates Christianity. Oral tradition about the prisoner under the hill survives from older cults. By the time the church takes control of the site, everyone knows there is something down there. They just don't know its name. Over time, that ignorance becomes intentional. It's easier to say, "We don't believe that old story," than to dig and find out it's true. So the Vatican builds up, while quietly making sure no one digs too deep down. Whichever version you believe, all three point to the same present reality. They know enough to fear what's beneath them. They just don't know how to explain it without dismantling their own story of how the world works. If you want to know what an institution is hiding, look at what it refuses to map. Publicly, the Vatican has allowed several excavations: the search for Peter's tomb, archaeological work in the necropolis, structural studies under the Basilica. But when researchers compare official maps with independent measurements, a pattern emerges. One specific lower zone is always missing. Not mismeasured, not roughly sketched, completely absent. When independent teams try to scan that region using ground-penetrating radar, two things tend to happen. Access is suddenly denied due to structural concerns, or the data they do get back is unusable, corrupted by some kind of interference. So what's down there? Here are the three main interpretations, again framed in hard, practical terms. Interpretation A: there is a chamber. They just classify it as non-structural to keep it off the books. Under this idea, the Vatican treats the coffin's chamber like a military base treats a classified bunker. On official plans, it doesn't exist. On internal documents, it has a code name and a separate archive. Only a handful of engineers and cardinals see both versions. Everyone else works around a blank space and learns not to ask why. Interpretation B: there is a chamber, but the interference isn't political, it's physical. Ground-penetrating radar and EM scanning have trouble with certain materials: dense, irregular metal, pockets of magnetically active ore, and yes, large bodies made of meteoric iron. If the coffin is what the texts say it is, meteoric steel, layered and carved, then every modern scan would show exactly what the early priests described: a hard, uncooperative object that refuses to reveal its shape. From the outside, that looks like mysterious interference. On the inside, it's simply physics. Plus the awkward fact that no one wants to publicly admit there's something down there that technology can't easily see through. Interpretation C: the blank space is deliberate, because the chamber extends beyond Vatican territory. There is one more uncomfortable angle. What if the chamber is larger than the Vatican's footprint? If the cavern housing the coffin extends under neighboring buildings, streets, or even the Tiber River, mapping it honestly would create legal and political problems. Who owns this? Who has responsibility? Do other states get a say? The easiest solution: you don't map it. You pretend it doesn't exist. You keep any sensitive surveys in a separate, locked archive. What all of this tells us is simple. The most sacred square kilometer in Catholicism has a piece of itself no one is allowed to talk about. Not because of structural risk, not because nothing is there, but because what is there would raise questions no public spokesperson is ready to answer. Every story about Lucifer's coffin leads to the same final question. Is the prison holding, or is it failing? Slowly. The texts describe something most people never think about. Each chain is powered by belief. Not the belief of one priest, or one pope, or one city. The accumulated faith of millions across centuries. So what happens when that belief collapses at a global scale? Sociologists and theologians will tell you faith is declining almost everywhere. But inside the Vatican, some think that's not just a cultural problem, it's a structural one. They point to 3 types of data. Signal 1, microquakes. Seismologists have recorded small, unexplained tremors under parts of Rome that don't line up with known fault lines. They're not big enough to panic over, but they're persistent. Tiny movements. Always at roughly the same depth, always in the same part of the hill. Officially, they're dismissed as normal geological activity. Unofficially, some in the Curia refer to them by another name, chain noise. Signal 2, electromagnetic anomalies. The second category is stranger. Equipment placed in certain lower chambers picks up intermittent surges, brief spikes in EM fields, short-lived distortions in radio readings, compass drift that appears, then vanishes. Again, this can be explained away. Wiring issues, interference from city infrastructure, random noise. But technicians who've worked there for decades say the same thing. It's not random, it's rhythmic, like a slow pulse, or pressure building and releasing along an invisible line. Signal 3, human effects. The most controversial data isn't from machines at all, it's from people. Guards assigned to certain lower corridors report vivid nightmares, sleep paralysis, the sensation of being watched from below, not above, a pressure in the ears, like descending in an airplane, even when they've gone nowhere. Most of them never see anything, they just feel it. When you overlay those reports with the seismological and EM data, you get a disturbing picture. As global belief declines, as churches empty, as old rituals are forgotten, something under the hill is experiencing a change in pressure. Theologians inside the Vatican argue about what that means. Some insist the chains are more symbolic than literal. Others argue the exact opposite. Symbols are the only thing holding them in place. Either way, the pattern is clear. Whatever the chains were meant to restrain, the conditions that made them strong no longer exist. So let's put it all together. We have independent ancient texts from multiple religions describing a metal coffin sealed with 7 chains, a hill that was considered ill-favored long before it became holy. Early church records quietly admitting, "We found the chamber, we did not build it." Missing maps and blank zones in the most carefully documented square of land on Earth. Physical hints, microquakes, EM anomalies, human reports, all centered on one forbidden depth. And a global collapse in belief, at the exact moment when those chains should be at their weakest. From here, there are only 3 ways to respond. Response A, you dismiss all of it. You assume every ancient reference is coincidence. Every alignment of description is chance. Every missing map is boring bureaucracy. Every tremor and anomaly is just geology and bad wiring. That's the safest answer. It's the one institutions will encourage. It allows life to go on without new variables. Response B, you accept the structure, but deny the occupant. In this view, there may be a chamber, a coffin, chains, a real physical object under Vatican Hill. But whatever is inside it isn't Lucifer. It's something else. A dangerous artifact, a relic from a lost civilization, a failed experiment from a culture we don't understand. That still leaves you with a problem. Someone went to extreme lengths to hide it, and the people sitting above it have chosen secrecy over disclosure for centuries. Response C, you take the texts at face value. You don't try to soften the language. You don't reinterpret the names. You accept that. An entity we now call Lucifer was encountered physically. He could not be killed. He could only be contained. 7 religions bound him with 7 chains under a single hill, and the institution built on top of that hill has been running damage control ever since. If that's even close to the truth, then the real story of the Vatican isn't about cathedrals, popes, or politics. It's about a prison that predates Christianity. A prisoner every major faith helped to lock away, and a set of chains no one knows how to repair. Because here's the part no one wants to say out loud. If those chains are powered by faith, and faith keeps draining away, it's no longer prison, and no longer secure. Every signal points to the same conclusion. The chains are degrading faster than they can be reinforced. Whatever is under the hill doesn't need belief anymore. It only needs time. Everything you've just seen still exists. The hill hasn't moved, the chamber hasn't been emptied, and the signals haven't stopped. Subscribe, because what comes next is something the Vatican can't hide.